everyone, welcome back to our English literature class. Today we are starting two very interesting units, Unit 5 Glimpses of India and Unit 6 MIJBIL the Otter respectively. Unit 5 takes us on a beautiful journey across our country through short stories like Goa, Coorg and Assam. We'll explore India's rich culture, its tradition and its people. It shows how beautiful, diverse yet united our country is. Unit 6 MIJBIL the Otter, which is a very humorous and heartwarming story about a pet otter and his master. This lesson teaches us the value of friendship and responsibility at the same time. So dear students, let's get ready to dive into these two important units. But before that, please do not forget to tap on the link that is given in the description box that will redirect you to our PW application badge that you have to enroll free of cost and just study free from there and get wonderful results. Alright, so let's begin. Dear students, I have a very important announcement to make in the class. From now onwards, you don't have to rush here and there because your own PW Foundation English WhatsApp channel is here. So why waste time? Scan the code that is given on screen that will redirect you to our WhatsApp channel. So please join it to get access to all important updates and information related to your board exams. Now let's begin with the topics that we are going to cover in today's session. We are going to cover A Baker from Goa by Lucio Rodriguez, Coorg by Lokesh Abril, Tea from Assam by Arup Kumar Datta, one of the most beautiful poems, The Trees by Andrew Andrich, and from Unit 6 we are going to cover MIJBIL the Otter and the poem Folk written by Carl August Sandburg. Alright, now you see a beautiful visual on screen. The first part of which shows a baker with loaves of bread in his hands. The second part shows Coorg, which is also called the Scotland of India. The third part shows how beautifully these tea plantation workers are working in tea gardens. Alright. So we are going to begin with the very first chapter, that is A Baker from Goa. Let's understand this chapter in the form of pointers so that you can retain it better. Alright, how does the story begin? The chapter describes the life of a baker in Goa. Baker's job used to make breads in village furnace. Bread was an essential part of Goa people's life and so are the bakers as well. Right? Baker is very skilled and very respected. A baker was considered to be a very skilled, very learned, very respected person in the society. Alright. Bread making process, kneading the dough, baking in the oven and distributed freshly every day. Then we have the bakery acts as a social hub. Children love visiting it. It was not just a profession, it was not just a business. It was a deeply rooted tradition for all of them. Right? And the families of the baker never starve. They live a very simple yet contented, very satisfied, very prosperous life. Alright. So let's understand. A Baker from Goa by Lucio Rodriguez is a nostalgic and descriptive account of traditional village baker known as pader. So what do we come to know? First of all, that bakers are still known as paders in Goa. Alright, how does the chapter begin? The chapter begins when the author tells us about his elders, how they fondly remembers of those Portuguese days. Right, when sweet breads, when those loaves of bread were part and parcel of everybody's life, and how bakery used to be a very important and very prominent business at that time. Right, so he remembers how the baker used to roam down the streets every day twice. Right, so he also remembers like the son of some old bakers who carry on the same family business and who are still called as paders in Goa. Alright. In the past, every Goa village had its own baker. Bakery was not just a profession, but a deeply rooted tradition. Alright, dear students, baker used to come twice on the streets for selling. Once in the morning when they were on their selling mission and once in the evening after emptying his basket. Alright, so his arrival was announced by the jhang jhang sound of the bamboo staff, which was well known to everyone, especially children. So the author here very fondly remembers of his childhood days when he recalls the moment when a baker used to roam the streets twice a day, once in the morning and then once in the evening after emptying his baskets. So hearing the voice of his jing jang or jingling sound of the bamboo thud, right, that his stick produced on which his basket used to lie, right, the children of the house used to get so excited, they used to step out of their house and flock around him. They used to circle around him. Alright, and they used to make so careful selection of the breads at the same time. So what used to happen, let's understand, children eagerly waited for the baker and they often gave him bread bangles or sweet breads. But specifically, let us understand that those loaves of bread and those bread bangles, if we talk about, these were for elder people, old people, and these were for children specifically. Alright, for adults, bread was an essential part of the meals, as I have already written here. Bread bangles were specifically for children and loaves of bread were for adults. Right? For adults, bread was an essential part of meals. Different types of bread were used for special occasions such as marriages, feasts, religious ceremonies. No Goa celebration was complete without bread. So everything that was made, that was baked there, was out of bread only. Right? The baker wore a traditional outfit called the kabai, a single piece long frock reaching the knees. Baker were generally prosperous because bread always in demand. Their well-being and success were often judged by their plump, roundish belly at the same time. Right? The baker maintained his accounts by making marks on the walls. Right? The baker used to do, how they used to maintain their monthly accounts? They used to maintain their monthly accounts by making marks on the wall instead of keeping written records. Even after the Portuguese left Goa, baking tradition continued, showing how strongly this was connected to Goa culture. So through this lesson, the author highlights the importance of tradition, community, life, cultural continuity, using the figure of baker as a symbol of Goa's rich culture. Alright, or heritage. Now let's try to understand. So what we have understood so far from this, first of all, the writer tells us about his elders. How do they remember of those Portuguese days? How they tell us about the business of bakery, how they tell us about the life of a baker, how a baker used to be considered as a very prominent, very respectable, very learned, very skilled person in the society. They were regarded a lot, right? And how the sons of the bakers still carry on their family business as a sort of legacy, and they were known as paiders, right? So, and then what happens in the meantime, what happens when he recalls his childhood days? When he recalls the incident when baker used to visit the street twice, once when he was on his starting selling mission, and then secondly in the evening after he has emptied his all baskets. So children used to get so excited listening to those thud and jingle or jang sound of his bamboo thud. Alright, they used to come out of their houses in a very exciting manner. They used to flock around him. They used to circle around him despite being rebuked by him. Right, despite being rebuked by him, what they used to do, they used to climb on the benches, they used to climb on the parapets, and they used to sneak inside the basket and make those careful selection. Then the author tells us about marriages, then he talks about other festive occasions, that how sweetbread was an important part of all festivities and different occasions. So the author further goes on to tell us that marriages had no meaning without the sweetbread called ball. Right? And at the time of daughter's engagement also, the ladies of the house were expected to prepare sandwiches, and for Christmas and other festive occasions, cakes and bolinas were considered to be essential items that were to be used. So then he talks about the outfit of a baker in Goa. What they used to wear? They used to wear a single piece long frock that was known as kabai, but with the passage of time, they started wearing shirt and 3/4 pant. Right? And the dress was so synonymous to them that anybody who wore it was considered to be a baker or a paider and was considered to be so prosperous. So coming to their monthly maintenance of accounts, we clearly come to know that a baker used to prepare monthly statements just by writing on the walls using pencils rather than on a piece of paper. So he also tells us at last that anyone who looked roundish or having a plumpish belly so was considered to be a baker only. Alright, dear students, let's recall. So what do we need to remember? First of all, a baker is also known as paider, right? Please remember this thing. And that bakery prosperous business. All right. Still carry on their family business as a sort of legacy. Then we come to know about author's childhood days. When he was a child, he tells us that baker used to visit twice, once in the morning and once in the evening. Right? Got it? So we come to know that how beautifully the children used to flock around him. They used to make circle around him. And what they used to do? They used to or parapets, low wall structures. Alright, next we come to know about different occasions. For example, if we talk about marriages, which had no meaning without ball. Alright, talking about daughter's engagement. There used to be sandwiches which were prepared by the lady of the house, and then we have for Christmas and other events, there were cakes and bolinas. Alright, so what more do you need when we have just, covered all these aspects of the lesson? So, discussing further, we also come to know about their outfit as well. They used to wear single piece long frock, which was known as kabai, right? Then with the passage of time, later they started wearing 3/4 pants that reach below knees and shirt. So anybody who wore like that was considered to be a pedder. Alright, then talking about monthly maintenance of accounts. They maintained records on walls using pencils, and they used to receive payments on monthly basis. Right? And he just, closes by telling about the appearance. Anybody who looked roundish or having plumpish appearance was considered to be a pedder, right? So this was all about lesson number 1 by Lucio Rodriguez. Let's understand the theme of the lesson, which is actually very, very important. And let me tell you one important thing. While you are mentioning theme of the lesson, please do not forget to write the importance of this business, bakery, as a profession, as a very prominent, as a very important, as a very prosperous one, right? And don't forget to mention the life of a baker, that how they used to live their life, how they used to visit, right? So let's understand. So it is based on the theme that a baker is a legacy of Portuguese and is of vital importance in traditional Goa village, right? So it talks about, although those Portuguese have already gone, right, but still bakery and sweet breads still play a very important role in Goa people's life, right, in some villages. So then the account describes a variety of bakery items like bread bangles, ball, without which marriages had no meaning. Then we have bolinas and the like prepared on ceremonial occasions by the Goans. The presence of the baker's activities is thus an integral part of all Goa villages in all festive occasions at the same time. Whether it is marriage or a daughter's engagement ceremony, Christmas or any other festival, the baker and his furnace are absolutely essential for the people of Goa. This we have already discussed, that marriages had no meaning without the sweet bread called ball. At the time of daughter's engagement, there used to be at the time of daughter's engagement, the ladies of the house were expected to prepare sandwiches, and for Christmas and other festive occasions, cakes and bolinas were considered essential. Alright, now As we have just discussed all important things that are given in the lesson, now let's get through these MCQ, which are exactly very important for all of you. Why did children eagerly wait for the baker? What was the reason? To help him to buy a bread for elders, to get bread bangles and sweet bread, to hear village news. What was the reason? Clearly we got to know that this is the correct answer. So to get bread bangles for themselves, and specifically these sweet breads were for adults also. Now, coming to the next question, the baker and his family never starved. This shows that this is an inference based question. You should clearly know after just understanding the story till this point of time that the family of the baker never starved, just because bakery was considered to be a very profitable business at that time, right? So they lived a very contented, very satisfied and very prosperous life. So baking was a profitable profession. Got it? Now, the next question, which is based on assertion and reason. Let's understand the baker had held an important position in the Goa village. Reason being the bread was essential for daily meals as well as festivals and ceremonies at the same time. Right? So, what do you think? First question, both assertion and reason are true and R is the correct explanation of A. Both are true, but R is not the correct explanation of A. R is true. A is true, but R is false. A is false, but R is true. Exactly, the correct answer is... The correct answer is this. Both are correct, assertion and reason. Both are correct and R is the correct explanation of. So dear students, let's now understand and discuss extract based questions from this particular lesson. I'm going to read it for you all. So during our childhood in Goa, the baker used to be our friend, companion and guide. Baker was not just a baker, but a friend, a companion and guide to all those children. Just as he used to visit the streets twice a day, the children used to seek advice also. They used to share their secrets in him. They used to confide in him. Right? So let's understand. The jingling thud of bamboo woke up us from sleep and we ran to meet and greet him. Why was it so? Was it for the love of loaf? Not only this, not at all. The loaves were bought by some paskin or baston or some maidservants of the house. Then what we longed for were those bread bangles which we chose very carefully. Sometimes it was sweet bread of special make. So what do we understand after reading this particular extract? That the baker was not just a baker for children. He was their companion, their friend, their guide as well, just because children used to confide in him. Children used to seek advice from him. Children used to share their secrets with him. Despite being rebuked by him when they used to visit him, just hearing that voice of the bamboo thud sound, jang jang sound of the bamboo stick. So they used to visit him. They used to circle around him. And what do we come to know about the baker? That he used to come on the streets twice a day, once in the morning and then once in the evening also, right? So let's understand the question now. What was the reaction of the children hearing the baker's bamboo thud? They avoid the loud noise and would turn around and sleep. Not at all. They used to get so excited. They would wake up from their sleep. They would jump out of their bed quickly. They would run to meet and greet him. They would go to buy loaves. Exactly. So what do we understand from this particular lesson? So it's a very basic question after reading the extract. So the most appropriate answer to this one is second and fourth. They used to wake up from their sleep and very excitingly they used to visit him, right? They would run to meet and greet him. Got it? And why this option is inappropriate? Because they did not go to buy those loaves. They were more interested in sweet breads, right? So what do we come to know? That these two are the most appropriate options. So the correct options are second and fourth. Because loaves were for adult people, adults. And bread bangles were for children specifically. Now the next question on screen, select the example of jingling. The hawkers pushed through the crowd. A little boy ran across the road. The ice cream vendor began ringing a small bell on his cart. Two old women were strolling in the park. So which is the example of jingling? And to us as well, even in our childhood days, there used to be a vendor who used to ring his bells, and listening to with the sound, we used to come out of the houses. We used to step out of the houses in order to get those ice creams. So the sound is similar to the ice cream vendor began ringing a small bell on his cart. This is the most appropriate answer. So the correct option is C. All right. Now, the next question. Attitude of the children in the extract: frightened, restless, excited, hesitant. Exactly. We should take no time in answering this particular question, and the correct answer is excited. They used to get so excited just hearing to the voice of the jhang jhang sound, hearing to that jhang jhang sound which was produced by his bamboo stick, right? Now the next question, not at all in the extract, which means of course no, in every aspect no, by no means, absolutely. So the most appropriate answer to this question is by no means. C is the correct answer. Dear students, let's now understand short questions which have been designed exclusively for you all and have been collected from question banks and previous year question papers so that you may get an idea what type of questions can be asked in your upcoming exams. So I'm going to read the first one for you. The baker and his family never starved. So this is quite evident after reading this particular chapter that the family of a baker never starved. The reason being bakery was a very important, very prominent and very profitable profession of the time, right? So a baker used to visit once in the morning when he was on his selling mission and once in the evening after emptying his huge basket. So anyone who looked plumpish or roundish or have a very plumpish belly was considered to be a baker or a pader. So that's why the family of a baker never starved. Next question on screen. During our childhood days in Goa, the baker used to be our friend, companion and guide. This has already been explained to you. Just because he was not just a baker, he was more than that. He was more than that for children because they used to confide in him. They used to share their secrets. They used to seek advice from him, right? So he visited household every day and supplied freshly baked goods. He used to visit daily, right, to each and every household, and he used to distribute those goods made of sweet breads. Some of them were essential part of various festival occasions, and so a baker was like a family member to all the people in the community. Now the next question on screen, why does the author say that the presence of a baker's furnace in the village is extremely essential? This is very, very important. Please mark this question as important. Let's see. The author says this to suggest that in Goa, there was a bakery in every village. This indicates the importance of bakers and bread also, which were considered to be an essential part of people's life, right? So various preparations were part of festivals and occasions. Cakes and bolinas were there exclusively for Christmas and other festive occasions. For daughter's engagement, the ladies of the house were expected to prepare sandwiches, and marriages had no meaning without a sweet bread called bol, right? This also we have discussed. So thus the presence of a baker's furnace in every village is justified because every delicacy, everything was made of these breads, right? Now, long question which are extremely important and everybody knows that. Let's have a look at that. Now, in the chapter A Baker from Goa, the narrator talks about his childhood in Goa and his fond memories. In about 120 words, write a presentation draft comparing the childhood of the narrator in Baker from Goa and that of Nelson Mandela. So this particular question covers 2 lessons from your textbook. This is extremely important and has been asked previously in the board exam, right? So mark this question as very, very important. Let's read. What freedom meant for Nelson Mandela, and just because it is also a nostalgic account and Nelson Mandela also feels nostalgic about his childhood days. So let's discuss. Baker from Goa and Nelson Mandela's reflections evoke childhood nostalgia, right? The author cherishes lazy Goa mornings with the twice daily visit of the bakers, right? And bread bangles. Kids were eagerly waiting for teeth unbrushed. He was a very cherished friend, guide and a companion to all those children and household, right? Mandela treasured his freedom like roaming fields, swimming streams, roasting mealies, riding bulls, guided only by his father and tribal rules. So what freedom as a, both of these chapters talk about childhood nostalgia, right? So dear students, coming to this particular question, which is extremely important from your board's point of view, because this question has been asked thrice in your previous year board question papers in 3 different years. Let's see. A baker from Goa beautifully reflects the tradition and social bonding of Goa village. I have told you this thing before as well, that this was not just a business, this was a deeply rooted tradition, and bakers were very important, were a very essential part of Goa people's life, right? And so were their mixers, molders and furnaces, and bread was also part and parcel of everybody's life because everything that was made out of bread only. Children eagerly used to wait for him, just not for bread but those bread bangles, right, which they chose very carefully, right, which shows it also talks about the festive occasions, different ceremonies, and at the time of daughter's engagement, how the ladies of the house were expected to prepare sandwiches also, which shows community bonding and emotional attachment also at the same time. The baker is respected and welcomed in every home, showing close social relationships. Thus, the chapter highlights how traditions and professions can help build strong social connections in the society. So I hope this is written in quite simple manner so as to make you understand how to frame perfect answers for your boards, right? Now we are going to dive deep into Coorg, which is also called the Scotland of India, and I hope many of you had already been to this wonderful place which is known for its lush green environment, right? Greenery, which is known for coffee and spices as well. So, and even if somebody has not visited, I am taking you to the place through this particular chapter. So there won't be anything that you would miss on, right? So let's get through it. Now, let's understand the story in the form of pointers so that you can understand it better. Coorg is a hilly district which is in Karnataka, known as the Scotland of India, already discussed, famous for coffee plantations, lush greenery and Brahmgiri hills as well. People of Coorg, Kodabus. People of Coorg are also known as Kodabus, which are brave, hospitable and very generous, right? Known for their valorous deeds. They have unique customs, carry firearms without a license, wear traditional attire also. And Kodabus are fond of outdoor activities like trekking and other sport related activities. Kurgi homes are known for their hospitality, writers' observation, peaceful villages, hardworking people and natural beauty, lush green environment surrounded by greenery. Alright dear students, so Coorg is a travelogue which is based on a travelogue written by Lokesh Abril that describes this beautiful place which lies halfway between Mysore and the coastal town of Mangalore, right? It's a beautiful place which is inhabited by martial men, beautiful women and wild creatures also, right? Coorg lies between Mysore and the coastal towns of Mangalore. This you should know. It is famous for rolling hills, lush green forest. How lush green forest? It is covered with evergreen. Most of its area is covered with evergreen forest, approximately 30% you can say. So this place looks most beautiful during the monsoon season, which brings a lot of rainfall during this, and the best time to visit Coorg is between September and March, right? So you must know these things. The people of Coorg are also called Kodabus. Please remember that the people of Coorg are called Kodabus and Coorg is also known as Kodagu, right? Discipline, they are known for their discipline, hospitality and valorous deeds. They are so brave. Many Kodabus serve in the Indian Army. The Coorg regiment is one of the most important one. Coorgi regiment is one of the most decorated one, which has maximum decorations, right? So the chief of the Indian Army was a Coorgi. As a mark of respect for their martial traditions, Kodabus are also allowed to carry firearms without a license. Now, the lesson also mentions the possible origins of Kodabus. This lesson also mentions the possible origins of Kodabus that we would be discussing. I would be telling you. Some believe that they are descendants of Greek or Arab soldiers, which explain about the traditional dress that they wore, right, like kufia and the black coat. Coorg is rich in wildlife, including elephants, macaques, Malabar squirrels, langurs, many bird species. It also has famous natural sports like the river Kaveri, Brahmgiri Hills and Nisargadhama. I would be telling you all. The place offers many adventurous sports like river rafting, rappelling, canoeing, trekking as well, right? And rappelling, which attracts tourists from all over the world. Overall, the lesson presents Coorg as a perfect blend of natural beauty, adventure and rich culture. Got it? Now, the theme of the section on Coorg is the unique richness of its place and its people. Of the Coorgis are the pride of India. Why they are considered to be the pride of India? They are the only people who are allowed to carry firearms without license, right? Just because reason being, the first chief of the Indian Army was a Coorgi, General Cariappa. They are allowed to carry firearms without any license and they are fiercely independent people who are known for their courageous, their valorous deeds also. And talking about the Coorgi regiment, which is the most decorated one with maximum decorations, right? So, we'll be talking about certain theories that are attached to their origin, right? Origin of Coorgis. They maintain such traditions that are distinct from the Indian mainstream, yet they are patriotic to the core. Any Indian would feel proud of the Coorgi regiment, the flora and fauna. The place is known for its rich flora and fauna as well. Then, let's discuss. The flora and fauna of this place are a treat to watch. The article explore all these aspects of Coorg to emphasize the theme. Alright, dear students. So, message through the write-up Coorg, Lokesh Abril gives us the message of unity in diversity. It clearly shows how our country is so beautiful, is so diverse, yet still united, right? Now, Coorgis stick to their traditions of marriage and religious rituals that are a part and parcel of India. Coorgi regiment is one of the most decorated one. So, while mentioning the theme and the message of the chapter, please do not forget to mention about the Coorgi regiment, which plays a very important part of this particular lesson. Right, which, and the about the do not forget to mention about the people also, right? So while mentioning the theme or the message of the lesson, if it is being asked in your exam in any way, so please do not forget to mention the Coorgi regiment, which has the maximum decorations, and please do not forget to write about Coorgis who are known for their valorous deeds, who are very fiercely independent people. All right, dear students, let's now understand the chapter through some pointers. Coorg by Lokesh Abril. First of all, it lies Mangalore. And trust me, after knowing all these pointers, after getting through all these pointers, you don't have to rush to any other source. These are enough to understand this lesson in a wonderful manner, right? Inhabited by martial men, beautiful women, and wild creatures. All right, dear students, most of its area is covered with evergreen forests, right? Approximately 30% you can say, right? Monsoon bring a lot of rain here, right? And at that time, this filled with beautiful coffee estates and bungalows which are canopied by huge trees, right? Talking about the people of Coorg, which are known as Kodavus. Please remember the other name of Coorgese is Kodavus and the name of Coorg is Kodagu, right? Please remember these things. Fiercely independent people, who are known for their valorous deeds. Now we come to most important part, talking about their origin. There are certain theories attached to it. Right? There are two theories attached to it. According to one story, they are from Greek descent, and according to another story, they are from Now let's understand how. According to a story, a part of Alexander's army did not return. They chose to move to Coorg in the south and they married the local girls there and got settled there. Right? So I hope this thing is quite understood. Talking about the Greek descent, Alexander the Greek, I repeat, a part of the Alexander's army did not return. They decided to move to Coorg. They married the local girls and got settled there. And the practices that they follow during their marriages and religious ceremonies was quite distinct from Hindus, which made it very clear that they are from the land of Alexander. Talking about another theory which is about Arab descent is quite they wear in terms of the outfit that they wear. They used to wear a long black coat with an embroidered waist belt which was similar to the one which was worn by Arabs, right? So Arab descent in terms of the outfit that they wear, they used to wear a long black coat with and the name was Kupia, right, which was similar to the one worn by Arabs. Please keep this thing in your mind. So I hope you are able to understand it. We have got to know about two different theories related to the origin of the Coorgese. According to a story, it has been believed that they belong to the land of Alexander just because a part of their army got settled in Coorg after marrying the local girls there, right? And the practices that they follow was quite evident in that, right? Now talking about Arabs' descent, it was in relation to the outfit that they wore, which was a long black coat along with a waist belt, which was known as kufiya, similar to the one which was worn by Arabs, and we used to call that kufiya, right? Now let's understand about Kodavus in detail. We got to know about they are fiercely independent people, and Coorg is also known for coffee, tea estates. Talking about Kodavus in detail, as we have discussed about their theories as well, they are the fiercely independent people, right? They are the fiercely independent people who are known for this valorous deeds. Right? Talking about the regiment, Coorgi regiment. Let's choose another pen with maximum decorations. Then we got to know about General Karyappa. First Chief of Indian Army. And they are the only people who are allowed to carry firearms without any license. All right. Now, let's discuss more. River Kaveri flows through it. Right? And the place is rich in flora and fauna. Adventurous activities such as river rafting, rappelling, canoeing can also be done there, right? Please remember all these details. And talking about wild creatures, we have certain varieties of macaques, squirrels, right? Langurs as well. Now, let's talk about Brahmagiri Hills. Reaching Brahmagiri Hills, from this particular point, you can get a panoramic view of the entire valley. That gives you a panoramic view, or you may say a 360 view of the entire valley, right? Then walking through the rope, right? Walking through the rope will take you definitely to a very beautiful 64 acres island of Nisargadhama. Please do not forget to mention this as well. Then you have the most widely known and the most beautiful Tibetan settlement, right, which is in Coorg only. So I hope you are able to understand all these pointers, right? And at last, I just want to make you understand one more thing about Coorg, right? What if somebody asks you a question, what Coorg is famous for? What is the speciality of Coorg? So please remember that the place is known for coffee, all right, for spices, and for martial men, beautiful women, and wild creatures. All right, dear students. Now, let's discuss MCQ questions related to the chapter. Why are Kodabus allowed to carry firearms without a license? They live in forests, they have a martial tradition, they are government officers, they protect wildlife. So I hope you would answer this question within a second that the correct answer is this one. Alright, so I hope all those pointers were enough to make you understand, and I bet you this thing, you don't have to study any other thing after going through all these pointers. These are enough to write a wonderful answer to in whichever form it comes, right? Now directions. Both assertion and reason are true, but R is the correct explanation of A. You have been given certain directions, right? Now let's read the assertion part. The people of Coorg are known for their hospitality. They believe guests bring good luck. So do you think both are correct? But at the same time, do you think R is the correct explanation of A? Or R is not the correct explanation of A? Let's understand. Yes, exactly. The point is, the people of Coorg are known for their hospitality. This is quite clear. This is quite evident after reading the lesson. They believe guests bring good luck. What is this? Is it related to the first part? It is related to assertion? No. So both are correct, but R is not the correct explanation of A. Reason being, this is not the sole reason. Right? This is not the sole reason. This may be one of those reasons, but not the sole reason. That's why we cannot say that R is the correct explanation of A, right? So let's now understand extract based questions, which are extremely important from this particular lesson, as there is a probability that this time questions from this particular extract can be asked, right? Now I'm going to read the extract for all of you. Coorgi homes have a tradition of hospitality. This we have already read, and they're willing to recount the tales of valor related to their sons and fathers. The Coorgi regiment is one of the most decorated one with maximum decorations, and the first chief of the Indian Army was a Coorgi, General Cariappa. Even now, Kodabus are the only people in India who are permitted to carry firearms without any license. So let's have the question on screen based on the same extract. What kind of stories are the people of Coorg always ready to tell? About their sons or their fathers, right? Their tales of valor. Right? The next question, what special favor is granted only to Kodabus? Kodabus, who are Kodabus? These are the people, remember. Again, I'm making you write so as you do not forget it. So, Coorg and other name for people is Kodabus. Right? Please do not forget it. What special favor is granted that they are allowed to carry firearms without any license? Got it? Dear students, shall we proceed towards another question? Let's have it on screen. Which word in the extract means courage or bravery usually in war? Which word is related to that? Right? Marshal. Now, who was the first chief of the Indian Army from Coorg? General Cariappa. Let's proceed towards another extract. Midway between Mysore and the coastal town of Mangalore, please remember this thing, this place. It is called a piece of heaven that got drifted from the kingdom of God. This land of rolling hills is inhabited by a proud race of martial men, beautiful women and wild creatures. Coorg or Kodagu, please do not forget that other name of people or Coorgis, you can say they are Kodavus. And other name of Coorg is Kodagu. Right? Please do not get confused and please do not forget. Which animals are we likely to see in Coorg? Very, very easy and very, very important at the same time. Macaques, a variety of monkeys, langurs, squirrels, right? What is the other name of Coorg? Kodagu. Then, which word in the extract means having to do with war? Clearly understood, martial. Then, what does Coorg do not have among these? It has hills, it has rainforest, it has coffee plantation, it does not have beaches, right? Because Goa is known for its culture, Goa is known for its music, Coorg is special for its coffee. Estates for beautiful women, for martial men, right, and spices as well. Which word in the extract means the same as resided? It's home, right? Very, very simple. Now let's discuss short questions of the chapter. The very first question being, what attracts visitors to Coorg? It's a beautiful destination which has something to offer for everyone. Like nature lovers can enjoy the beauty, scenic beauty, because it is surrounded by lush green environment. It is surrounded by evergreen forest, maximum 30% of the area, right? So what happens, even the writer tells us about the best time to visit. It is between September and March, right, when this place is filled with coffee estates, its fragrance, and those beautiful bungalows which are canopied by huge trees, right? Now, let's understand. Bailakupi, we have already discussed, a Tibetan settlement that provides a peek into Tibetan culture. So, is also in Coorg. Sport enthusiasts can enjoy water sports like rafting, rappelling, canoeing, mountain biking as well, right? And then this place is known for rich flora and fauna. The rich heritage and culture of Coorg also attracts historians at the same time. Those who are looking for a peaceful vacation, those who want to enjoy a scenic beauty, those who want to be in the laps of nature can visit this beautiful. Now, let's discuss the next question on screen. Why are Kodavus or the people of Coorg permitted to carry firearms without any license? Because these are the people who are known for their valorous deeds. These are the people who are known for their integrity, right? So, that's why these are allowed to carry firearms without any license, right? Next question, how is the Coorgi tradition of courage and bravery recognized in modern India? Very, very important, and has been asked previously in 2022 also, 2020 also. The Coorgi regiment is one of the most decorated one with maximum decorations. Tell about General Cariappa being the first chief of the Indian Army. The Coorgis are the only people that are allowed to carry firearms without any license, right? Thus, we see that Coorgi tradition of courage and bravery is recognized today as well, right? Now, long questions from the particular lesson. Why is Coorg called the Scotland of India? Just because 3 different reasons, right? Although there are numerous reasons based on the same. Coming to our next question, why is Coorg called the Scotland of India? There are numerous reasons based on the same. Still, we have come to know a variety of points to describe this, to justify this answer, that Coorg is famous for beautiful coffee gardens, right? Beautiful coffee estates, beautiful bungalows. At the same time, it is surrounded by lush green environment. It is surrounded by evergreen forest, right? Monsoon bring a lot of rain here. This place is a perfect blend of beauty and greenery, right? So it is known for its rolling hills, for adventurous activities, for lush green environment, for coffee plantations and beautiful bungalows. So weather is so cool and pleasant here and so refreshing. The air smells of coffee and colonial bungalows add charm to the place. Coorg is also rich in wildlife and adventurous activities, and it is rich in flora and fauna at the same time. So you have to mention the specialities of Coorg. So that's why this is a full-fledged answer. But please, I would suggest you not to copy and paste. Please take references from these answers and try to frame your own answers, right? All right. Now the next question, and please mark this question as very, very important. Very, very important. These are the questions that have been asked previously in your board examinations, right? So these questions have been picked directly and have been presented to you so that you can just get an idea clearly, right? Now the next question on screen, describe Coorg as a tourist destination highlighting its natural beauty and culture. Although these 2 questions are relatable, they are related to each other and somewhat their answers are also relatable. And this question has been asked in 2022 question paper. Let's read it. Very, very important. Coorg is an attractive tourist destination which is known for its natural beauty, which is known for coffee plantation, which is known for its race, which is known for beautiful women, which is known for martial men and wild creatures. It is known for very adventurous activities as well, right? The pleasant climate throughout the year makes it very ideal for visitors. Coorg is famous for wildlife, trekking trails and river rafting as well. Do not forget to mention about River Kaveri. Do not forget to mention about the adventurous sportly activities that can be performed there. Please do not forget to mention about Nisargadhama, a 64 acres of island, right? And please do not forget to mention the Tibetan settlement that adds charm to this particular place. All right, dear students. Now, we are going to discuss the third part of the unit, or you can say the third chapter, which is titled as Tea from Assam by Arup Kumar Datta, and this lesson is particularly special for all the tea lovers, right? And for me as well, because I am also a tea lover. So I don't know how many of you would be the same. So please, let's get to know this lesson and dive deep. So it is written by Arup Kumar Datta. Let's understand. So we see in the visual, this is a very beautiful visual, and we see a tea plantation worker is working in the tea estate or tea gardens and is just, plucking fresh tea leaves in the sprouting season, right? How beautiful this visual appears. Now let's understand this chapter also in the form of pointers, and through this we come to know about there are two major characters in the chapter, because these are not the stories, right? These are not the stories unlike your other lessons in literature. These are the chapters which are based on facts, which are based on special qualities of each and every place, of each and every area, right? And the writer through these three different lessons has described the essence of each area that we have already read, and now we are going to read about Assam. Got it? So it talks about two major characters. We have Rajveer and Pranjal. So they both are on their way to Assam and they both are traveling, right? And in the meantime, they are having a conversation. And let me remind of you one thing, that it's a travelogue. So when you visit some place and you record your experiences of the same place, so it becomes a travelogue, right? Narrates the story of Rajveer and Pranjal traveling to Assam. Rajveer is curious, he is inquisitive by nature. He's so curious, observant and excited to explore tea plantations. So although both boys were excited, but Pranjal did not share the same excitement as Rajveer, just because he had been born and brought up in the same surroundings, right? Pranjal accompanies him as a guide. He is calm and practical. History of tea in coffee, they both discuss about the history of tea as well. They both discuss about the theories of different emperors. They both discuss about the origin of tea as well. Discovered by British, but local legends exist. The journey, train ride, observing tea gardens, interacting with locals, tea production, tea estates, tea gardens, right? Rajveer learns about hard work behind tea cultivation and scenic beauty of Assam as well. So I hope you are ready to delve deep into the lesson with me, right? Now, Tea from Assam is the third part of the chapter Glimpses of India, which is written by Arup Kumar Datta. Please remember this particular thing. The lesson describes a train journey of two friends, Pranjal and Rajveer, who are on their way to Assam, where Pranjal's parents are waiting for both of them, just because Rajveer and Pranjal have gone there to spend some time to just enjoy their summer vacations, right? So, let's understand. The story begins with Rajveer and Pranjal traveling to Assam on a train. Pranjal belongs to Assam. He had already been born and brought up in the same surroundings in those amid those tea gardens. So he did not share much excitement as Rajveer's, right? While Rajveer is seeing them for the first time. So although Rajveer is an ardent reader, a book reader, but he was so spellbound by seeing the magnificent view around him. He was so spellbound, he was so mesmerized by the view around him. So he closed the book and he wanted to enjoy the sight, right? So what happened then, while Pranjal reads a detective book showing little excitement, and what was the reason for his excitement? We have already discussed, just because he had been born and brought up in these surroundings only. So that's why it was a part of his daily routine only, right? Rajveer notices tiny tea pluckers working in the fields and share his knowledge about tea with Pranjal. He tells him that over 80 crores of tea cups are drunk every day throughout the world. So what do we come to know? How does the lesson begins? How does the chapter begins? They both are having a conversation, and when they are on their way to Assam to enjoy their summer vacations, right? In the meantime, when the train halts at a station, and there was some vendor who was just shouting chai garam chai, some things like that, and they both are having a conversation, and they both are ardent readers, book readers, but this Rajveer, who was also an ardent reader, wanted to just enjoy the scenic beauty of the place, as a result of which he appears to be less interested in the book that he was reading. He closed that and he wanted to enjoy the scene. So in the meantime, Rajveer tells Pranjal that do you know about this thing? Do you know about the fact that throughout the world 80 crores of cups are drunk throughout the world? Then further, Rajveer tells Pranjal about the stories, about the theories that he had read, that he had known a great deal of things about tea and some legends as well which are related to that. So he tells him that there were certain theories about it. According to one, there was a Chinese emperor who used to drink boiled water. So what happened when there were certain twigs under the boiling water? So what happened when they fell by chance into the water, and that gave a very delicious taste. So the name that was given to those tea twigs. That was tea. Right? So then there was another theory about an Indian legend which Rajveer shares with Pranjal, that there was an Indian legend whose name was Bodhidharma, an Indian ascetic. So he had a problem with his sleep. He was troubled with his sleep because he used to meditate a lot. So once what he did, he cut off his eyelids and which fell on the ground, and as a result of which there were 10 tea plants which grew out of those eyelids, and when these plants were used in boiling water while making tea, it gave a very delicious taste. From then onwards, the word came into being. Then he further goes on to tells about the origin of the word. Words like chai, chini, that these are all Chinese. Right? That these words are also Chinese, and that tea was introduced to Europeans first. The concept of tea was introduced to Europeans first in somewhere in 16th, 17th century. And they drank it more as a medicine. Right? Please remember all these points, because whatever questions would be asked from this particular chapter would be based on these pointers only. I am making you sure of all these things. If you go through all these pointers and understand each and every point, no question would be there in your board exams which will come beyond these, right? So we have discussed about the origin of the words like chai and chini, that all of these words are Chinese and they have their origin in the Chinese only, right? Then tea was first introduced to Europeans who considered tea not just as a beverage, but they used to treat it more as a medicine as well, right? Then what happened? The train halted at Mariani Junction. After this, so now let's discuss about Mr. Barua, Pranjal's father. Right? And the manager of a tea garden, right? In Dekhiabadi. So while these two boys were on their way to Assam, and when they reached the station, he was there to pick them up. He was there already on the station to pick these two boys. And while they were on their way to the tea garden, which was managed by please remember the name of the place. So while they were about to reach the tea garden, they traveled for almost an hour, and after reaching there, they discussed a great deal of things about the origin of tea and various cultivation techniques as well. Rajveer tells Pranjal's father if it is the sprouting season, when tea leaves can be plucked freshly in that season from May to July, for May to best time for sprouting, right? And plucking those fresh tea leaves. So as a result of which, all this information truly impressed Mr. Barua, and who had really complimented and appreciated Rajveer for his knowledge. So what happened later? Mr. Barua for his knowledge and curiosity to learn many things around him, Rajveer acknowledged the appreciation and hope to learn more. So this was all about the lesson Tea from Assam by Arup. Now let's proceed towards an important yet interesting part of the class, which is MCQ. Now we are going to do this. Let's read the first question. What quality of Rajveer is highlighted in the chapter? Was he careless? Was he curious, arrogant, or lazy? So he was curious. So this is the correct option. He was neither lazy nor careless nor arrogant. Now the next question, which is based on assertion and reason. Assertion: Rajveer's journey to Assam was educational. He was curious and eager to learn about tea plantation. Yes, exactly, it was educational. Both assertion and reason are true and R is the correct explanation. Both are true but R is not the correct explanation. A is true but R is false. A is false but R is true. Now let's see. Rajveer's journey to Assam was educational, as at the same time he got to know about a great deal of things about the cultivation techniques and about the place. He was curious and eager to learn more about tea plantation. Exactly, he was curious. That's why he could always learn new things about. Right? So what is the correct option here? Both assertion and reason are true and R is the correct explanation of A. Alright, dear students. Now let's get through these extract based questions, which are really important. Now let's proceed towards some questions which are based on the passage. So first one being an inference based question, which is extremely important. Please mark this. Rajveer too was an ardent fan of detective stories, but at the moment he was keen on looking at the beautiful scenery. Yes, he was an ardent book reader, but while he was on his way to Assam, while they were traveling on train, so what happened? The scenic view, the love for scenic view, the love for scenic beauty and those rolling hills, they really overshadowed his love for book reading. That's why he closed his book and was enjoying the sightseeing around him. Right? Straight true or false? The reason Rajveer was interested in looking at the beautiful scenery was that the detective book was not interesting. Not at all. This is false. It's just that the love for sight around him, love for that magnificent sight and the lush green beauty around him overshadowed his reading. People who live in big cities are always fascinated by natural beauty. Exactly. You must have noticed this thing. Even the people who are living in city, they just sometimes want to be away from the hustle bustle. They would just want to be sometimes away from the bustling crowd. And when they go in the laps of nature, when they go amid nature, they feel so calm, so relaxed and so refreshing. Right? So, people who live in big cities are always fascinated. Right? Whenever you get a chance, even you live in the city, and whenever you get a chance to go to some hilly areas, to some places, so definitely you also feel calm and relaxed and refreshed at the same time. So which phrase would correctly substitute doll-like figures? Very important. These doll-like figures refer to those tea pluckers, especially women, who pluck those tea leaves in a uniform manner, who walk in a uniform manner. So it seems like they are doll-like figures. Alright, dear students. Now let's proceed towards short questions that he has done a great. So what impressed Mr. Barua about Rajveer? His curiosity, his inquisitive nature, and at the same time his great deal of homework that he has already done before reaching Assam. So all these things impressed Mr. Barua like anything. Right? He knew about the flushes of tea, he knew about the sprouting season. Right, he knew about various cultivation techniques as well. Next question, narrate the story of Buddhist monk behind the discovery of tea. Very important. What has greater significance in this particular chapter? Two theories about Chinese emperor, about the origin of tea, right, about the origin of cultivation, about the methods, and this Indian legend as well. So there was a Buddhist monk story about tea. A Buddhist ascetic was busy in his meditation, and at the same time he felt as if he was having a troubled sleep. He was troubled with his sleep. So what he did, he cut off his eyelids, and as a result of which 10 plants grew out of it, right? And when those were used in boiling water, so these were put in hot water. When people drank the hot water, it vanished sleep, as a result of which tea was drunk. So now let's discuss important long questions from the lesson. The first question being, Rajveer proves that curiosity enhances learning. Very important. Just please mention adjectives that describe his personality. He was curious, he was learned, very informative. Right? Rajveer proves that curiosity enhances learning through his keen observation and homework that he had already done before coming to Assam. Right? Unlike Pranjal, Rajveer is eager to learn more about tea plantation, workers and places as well. Right? So he also mentions about great legends related to the origin of tea. He observed the vast tea gardens, workers plucking tea leaves and asked questions to gain more knowledge about the same. So his curiosity, right? His curiosity and the way he has done a lot of homework, a great deal of homework before reaching Assam, really impress Mr. Barua. Rajveer's curiosity and enthusiasm make the journey memorable. Explain with reference to the chapter. Extremely important, and this question was last in your previous year question paper, and this was also asked in 2021 as well. Rajveer's curiosity and enthusiasm make the journey more memorable because he discusses a great deal of things about Chinese emperor, about Indian legend, about various tea cultivation methods, about the sprouting season as well, right? So during the train journey, Rajveer keenly observed the vast tea plantations, workers plucking those freshly tea leaves in the sprouting season, right? He asks questions and shows a genuine interest in understanding. So although both of these boys were interested, but Pranjal did not share as much excitement as Rajveer had, right? Why? Just because he was born and brought up in the same surroundings, right? That's why. So his curiosity impressed Mr. Barwa and turns an ordinary journey into a rich learning experience. So this chapter is a blend of nature, love for nature, and learning at the same time. All right, dear students, now we are going to discuss something really, really important, exciting and interesting. It is a poem which is based on nature, and the word freedom plays a very important role here, like so many chapters that we have covered earlier as well. So this poem is based on nature, which talks about trees and their movements. It is written by Adrienne Rich, who is a feminist poet and a writer. Now the question would pop up in your mind, who is a feminist? A feminist is a person, especially a woman, who believes in the equal rights for men and women in all walks of life, be it political, social or economic, right? So now let's dive deep into the poem and understand what she has to say through her beautiful poem. So let's discuss the very first stanza, which is actually very, very beautiful. The trees inside are moving out in the forest that was empty all these days, where no birds could sit, no insects hide, no sun buried its feet in shadow. So, and simultaneously, we would also be discussing literary device, because no poem is complete without that. A poem has no meaning without literary devices. So we can easily see the trees inside are moving. First of all, we have given this human attribute to the trees. So we can say that trees have been personified here, right? Trees have been personified. Then, the forest that was empty all these days, this line is being repeated in the stanza, this line and this line. The forest that was empty, which creates an effect of repetition at the same time. Also, there is anaphora whenever there is a particular word which keeps getting repeated in the beginning of consecutive lines in a stanza. We call it anaphora as well, right? There is anaphora. Please remember. So she says the trees inside are moving out into the forest that was empty all these days. She's talking about the movement of trees which have been enclosed in the confinement of a house or an artificial setting. So she says the trees have been made confined in an artificial place, right? So which otherwise they should be in the forest. It is a natural place, it is a natural home to all these trees. So where no birds could sit, because the forest seems so lifeless without these trees, because without trees no bird could sit, because trees are home to birds, insects as well. So no insects hide, no sun bury its feet in shadow. So if there are no trees in the forest, no birds can hide, no birds can make their nest, no insects can hide, no sun can bury its feet in shadow. No shadow can be formed without trees in a forest, right? So because the sunlight would directly fall on the ground and the shadows could not be formed. So the forest that was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. And she says, now these trees have started moving into their natural place. Now these trees have started moving towards the forest. So those forests would be full of trees by the next morning, because of this reason that the trees have started moving out, right? So we can clearly say that trees have been personified because they have been given human attributes. We have discussed about anaphora, and imagery is something when you create a natural image, when you create a mental image in your mind, when you visualize something. And just because this poem is based on nature, definitely there would be imagery throughout. Now let's see further. All night the root work to disengage themselves from the cracks. So here the poet says the roots take advantage of the cramped spaces, of the cracked spaces in the veranda, and they try to disengage themselves in the veranda floor. The leaves strain towards the leaves, and leaves put pressure. They put their pressure on the strained glass of the veranda as well. Small twigs stiff with exertion, long cramped boughs shuffling under the roofs. So the poet here talks about all different parts of the trees, be it boughs, the branches of the tree that we call, be it small twigs, and the leaves who put a lot with that put a lot of pressure, right, in order to just get out, in order to just get free from the confinement of the house, right, and who wants to move to the forest. Like newly discharged patients, so a literary device has been used which is known as simile, right? Half-dazed, moving to the clinic doors, right? So what do you need to understand? The trees are working hard, all the parts of the trees are working hard in order to disengage themselves. Roots have taken advantage of the crammed and the crevices that are already there in the veranda floor, and they are trying to disengage themselves after a lot of struggle. And the branches of the tree are also being compared to the newly discharged patients, like half-dazed patients who just want to get an escape from the hospital, and they are moving towards the, as if they are moving towards the clinic doors. I sit inside, doors open to the veranda. Now in this particular stanza, the stanza number 3, she is talking about herself. The poet is talking about herself. She writes, I sit inside, doors open to the veranda, and the doors of her veranda are wide open, writing long letters in which she scarcely mentioned the departure. Being a feminist poet, being a feminist writer, still she is busy in writing letters, she's still busy in mentioning about her own things, and she has ignored, she has not mentioned the departure of the trees from the forest to their natural habitat. The night is fresh, the whole moon shines in a sky still open, the smell of the leaves and lichens still reaches like a voice into the rooms. So what she says, the poet still sits on her veranda writing long letters but not mention the departure of the trees. She does not mention this thing in her letter that the trees are trying hard, that the trees are moving to the forest, and the next morning, by next morning, the forest will be full of trees which are empty since the previous night. So the night is clear with a bright full moon. Why the night is clear with a bright full moon? Because there are no trees and she could see the moon clearly, right? So nobody is there to hamper the passage, nobody is there to act as an obstacle, and the moon ray is coming directly to the window. So the smell of leaves and lichens feel like a strong voice demanding freedom. So she notices one thing, that while writing all those letters, she could easily feel the smell of the lichens and the leaves, and the voice is as if they are screaming to get free out of that confinement, and then they want to move towards the forest. So this shows the intense desire to break free. This shows the intense desire to break free from the clutches, right? So lichens, crusty patches or tea bushes growth. So please, you have to understand the meaning of these lines. Trunks, bare ground formed by association of fungus and algae, right? So I sit inside, doors wide open to the veranda, writing long letters. There is alliteration. There is alliteration here, in which I scarcely mention the departure of the forest from the house. Again, there is alliteration. The night is fresh and the moon shines in a sky. Still, there is alliteration. The smell of lichens and leaves still reaches like a voice into the rooms. So she says she could, as if she could hear those voices which are screaming in order to get free from that clutches of confinement, right? Now, let's get to know the stanza number 4. My head is full of whispers, and let me tell you this thing, that this is one of the most important stanzas out there. So my head is full of whispers which tomorrow will be silent. Listen, the glass is breaking. Now she says my head is full of whispers just because of the smell, just because of the voice of those lichens and the leaves which she could hear, right? So my head is full of whispers which tomorrow will be silent, because she knew this thing, the trees and the part of the trees which are trying hard to move from the confinement, to move from that enclosed space, and by the next morning the trees will be moving towards the forest, which is their natural habitat, and the forest will be full of trees, so which tomorrow will be silent. She knew this thing. Now I could hear the smell, now I could hear the voices of the lichens and the leaves as well, so who are struggling hard to get free from the cracks. By next morning, this everything will be silent, and which tomorrow will be silent. Listen, the glass is breaking. Underline this line, please. The glass is breaking. And why the glass was breaking? Because a lot of pressure was exerted on the glass by these different parts of the trees, be it twigs, be it boughs. The trees are stumbling forward. Again, the trees have been personified. Into the night, wind rushed to meet them. What is the meaning of stumbling? When something is moving in a very haphazard way, just like all the branches, all the parts of the trees are stumbling, all the parts of the trees are struggling hard, be it boughs, be it twigs, be it leaves, right? So they are stumbling forward here and there, and into the night winds rush to meet them. And who is there to embrace them? Wind is there to embrace them, wind is there to hug them. So wind also has been personified as wind is there in the forest to welcome all those trees. The moon is broken like a mirror, one of the most important line I'm writing most important. And why the moon is broken like a mirror? Most important. As many stars I could make here. Right? The moon is broken like a mirror. Why the moon is broken like a mirror by this time? Because now is the time that the trees have moved to the forest. Now the forest is full of trees and the moon seems like a broken mirror just because of the largest branch of the tree which has divided the moon into certain parts, into different parts. So it seems like as if it is like a broken mirror with certain pieces here and with certain pieces that side. So it pieces of flash now in the crown of the tallest oak. So such beautiful lines. Please, please, again I just tell you this thing. Please mark these lines as very, very important. This stanza is very important. I'm explaining you this thing again. She says my head is full of whispers. Now she could hear all those voices. Now she could feel everything, but she scarcely mentioned all these things in her letters just because she knew that these trees are meant to be there and these trees would definitely move to the forest by the next morning. The trees are stumbling forward, right? Breaking all the barriers, breaking all the cracks. The roots have taken advantage of those cracks in the veranda floor, right? The moon is broken like a mirror. Now by this time the forest is full of trees. And just because of the largest branch of the tree which has divided moon into different parts, it seems like as if the moon is broken into different pieces. So it pieces flash now in the crown of the tallest oak. Now, why the tallest oak? This oak tree has been used in the poem. It has a special reference because this oak tree is a symbol of strength. It is a symbol of strength. So, please make sure that you understand all these things. Again, there is a simile in the poem. There is simile here. Right? So now let's understand what the poet has to say to us. So the poet hears the soft sound of the trees trying to escape, which will disappear by morning. She urges the reader to notice this moment of change, this moment of transition. Remember the word transition. The forest, the trees which were otherwise confined have now started moving to the forests. All right. The glasses breaks and the tree moves out into the night. Outside, the wind welcomes them, embraces them, hugs them. Wind is there to welcome all these trees. All right. And the moon looks shattered as the tree shadow falls. So I hope it's done now. Let's get to know the summary pointers. The poem talks about trees kept inside houses, which should not be there. Otherwise, they should be in the natural habitat, which is forest. The trees symbolize nature trapped by human interference. At night, these trees try to escape from the house. All the parts of the trees keep working hard, keep struggling hard to disengage themselves to get free from the confinement of that artificial setting. The forest once empty is slowly getting filled again. And by the time the forest is getting filled with these trees, right? So what happens? The movement of the tree shows nature's strong desire for freedom. The moon, the night wind create a mysterious and supportive atmosphere. The poet, everybody is helping these trees. The night and the wind. Also, the moon, the night and the moon at the same time. The night, the wind, the moon, night and wind also. Right? So act as supporters. The poet observes this change with concern and hope. She is quite hopeful of the change. She is quite hopeful of the trees, which she does not mention in her letters also. The poem highlights the damage caused to nature. Humans have caused this much damage to nature. For ornamental reasons, for one reason or the other, they confine the trees which should be in the natural habitat otherwise, right, which is the forest. It suggests that nature cannot remain imprisoned forever. You can suppress it, but it will find its way anyhow. Right? The poem delivers a message of environmental awareness and freedom of nature. Please mark this thing as very important. You can get a question based on this point. Now, understanding the poem in detail in a descriptive way, let's understand this poem is written by Adrienne Rich and is a very symbolic poem, all right, which is addressed to women. At the same time, it is a very thought-provoking poem which is enough to stir the mind of its readers, right? So, though the poem talks about trees, it actually represents those women who wants to break free, who wants to get free from the clutches of the societal restrictions. All right. At the beginning, we see trees are shown as in the crammed spaces, just like in the pots or some unnatural setting, and they want to free. Each and every part of the tree is struggling hard to free and just move into the natural habitat. Their roots, leaves and branches struggle to break free, showing restlessness and strong desire for freedom. The whole idea is based on the strong desire for freedom. right? Please remember this thing. So the forest outside, which should be full of trees, is empty, symbolizing a world waiting to welcome freedom. Whose freedom? Now these trees symbolize women. It stands as a metaphor for women. As the poet says, these forests would be full of trees by next morning. So that's why the arrival of these trees into the forest will mark the arrival of the women, the arrival of the safe, independent women into the society, right? Now, as the poem progresses, the trees finally move out of the forest into the open, vast expanse of the forest. And this moment symbolizes liberation from restrictions. Please underline this thing whenever you read. And while you prepare your notes, please underline the main keywords. The breaking of glass and doors represent the breaking of the barriers for those women who have now broken those barriers, who have just, come out and emerged out to be free and independent women. The moon and night provides a calm and supportive background, suggesting that nature supports this freedom, right? Not only for trees, but for women at the same time. So the poet who's observed all these scenes, the change deeply. She feels that a long standing silence has ended because now the trees have moved into the forest and it is full of whispers, meaning suppressed voices are now being heard. Why those voices were heard? The poet could feel, the poet's head was full of whispers. Just because she knew this thing, she could hear the voices of the lichens and the leaves and each and every part of the tree who are struggling hard. But by next morning, everything would be silent, right? Tomorrow would be silent. So there is a literary device also. The final image shows the forest becoming alive again, indicating hope, rejuvenation, renewal, right? Overall, the trees highlight the importance of freedom, self-expression, and the right to live naturally. All right, dear students, please underline all these pointers while you make your notes as well. Now, let's discuss MCQ questions based on the same. The phrase sun buried its feet in shadow, very, very important line. We have given sun also has been personified. Hidden by the trees, bright and hot, gone below the ground, shining directly. So what do you think? The phrase sun buried its feet in shadow. Shining directly, because trees act as a shelter. Trees help in producing and forming shadows which could not be possible otherwise, right? Name the literary device used in the line moon is broken like a mirror. The like has been used when we compare two dissimilar things using as or like. Definitely there is simile. All right, dear students. Now, what are the trees compared to? Insects? No. Birds? No. Children? No. Newly discharged patients who are still under the effect of medicine but still trying hard to move. As a newly discharged patient who wants to go home, right, just keeps looking at the door of the hospital, he's in a hurry to move, right? Now the extract based questions based on the same. My head is full of whispers. First of all, this stanza, which I marked really important even 2-3 minutes ago. Now please, which tomorrow will be silent. Listen, the glass is breaking, the trees are stumbling forward into the night, right? So let's answer. Identify the figure of speech used in the line, the trees are stumbling forward. What does that mean? Is personification. Why trees are stumbling forward? Because trees have been given human attributes. Otherwise, trees cannot move, right? So the trees are given human characteristics, stumbling and moving forward into the night, right? Now, explain the significance of the line, the moon is broken like a mirror, its piece is flashed now in the crown of the tallest oak tree. So let's understand the moon is broken like a mirror, its piece is flashed now in the crown of the tallest oak tree, because it creates a very clear picture in our mind. The moonlit night, and it's shining through the large branches of the tree, looks like the moon is broken into pieces. As you must have, although I'm not so good at drawing, let's suppose this might be any tree and the longest branch, which creates a partition, and you are not able to see the moon clearly, and it seems like a broken mirror divided into different pieces, sometimes there, sometimes here, sometimes here, right? So the poet shows nature in a creative and unusual way, in an exceptional way, right? Next, complete the sentence with the appropriate option. In the third line, the word listen is used to serve no purpose but to complete the sentence. Emphasize listening carefully to the sound of the glass breaking. Emphasize listening carefully as a change is about to take place. Make the readers more attentive. Definitely, all three options are positive except this reason, but we have to find the most appropriate option, which is this. The whole poem talks about transition. The whole poem talks about a change that is going to take place. All right. So now the next question, what does the line, my head is full of whispers, which tomorrow will be silent, tell us about the poet's state of mind? It says poet's mind is temporary. She shows that life is not always the same. It indicates that the thoughts in the poet's mind are temporary. She knows that life is not always the same and the botherations of today will fade off with time. So it directly refers to the movement of the trees which are now there in the confinement, but now by the next morning the space will be free and they would be moved into their natural habitat. So everything is temporary. Change has to take place. Change is the ultimate constant, she believes, right? So why would the whispers be silent tomorrow? Because there would be no trees, there would be no part of the trees that would be struggling hard to get free, right? Now, why are the trees stumbling? Because they are struggling hard to get free from the artificial environment and they want to move to their natural habitat, right? Now, next extract, wind rushed to meet them, the moon is broken like a mirror, its pieces flash now in the crown of the tallest oak. Now, let's discuss the questions based on this. The crown of the oak tree lies in, and let me tell you one important thing, that all these MCQs are CBT based, competency based questions, and in the more lessons and further lessons that we would be discussing would be, the criteria would be the same. CBT questions have been designed in the form of MCQ, so please pay attention accordingly. Topmost branch roots, rich in tasty fruit, broad leaves. So topmost branch we are talking about more specifically here. So due to which we are not able to see the moon clearly and it appears to be like a broken mirror. The winds are rushing to meet. Winds have been personified. They are rushing to embrace those trees. They are rushing to meet, to hug those trees. So please have a look at these answers as well. Find the word from the extract which means the same as shine. Flash. Right? Just because you get a flash of the mirror as well. Now the short questions also, which are extremely important and have been collected from previous year question papers for all of you. So the trees is a symbolic poem and Adrian has used trees and a metaphor for human beings and specifically women. So how can you forget these terms like symbolism and metaphor while you read this poem? Alright. So the trees represent women yearning for freedom, craving for freedom, longing for freedom. They want to break the shackles and they want to emerge out as independent women. They seek to break free from the restrictions of their homes and embrace the open expanse of the forest. They strive to lift their roots from the ground to reach the air, which symbolizes liberation, right? Please focus on this thing. Compare the trees to newly discharged patients. We clearly know that the boughs, the branches of the tree have been compared to newly discharged patients, just like a patient who is still under the effect of medicine, right? Who clearly just keeps on looking at the doors, keeps on looking at the exit doors in order to go back home, right? So, trees have been compared to newly discharged patients because they are eager to move out but are still weak and confused, right? And the second reason, they struggle to step into freedom just like the patients who are still under the effect of medicines or anesthesia. Support the statement, the process of moving out was tedious. Yes, exactly, it is tedious. Every part of the tree has to work, has to struggle so hard in order to get free from that artificial setting, right? And this question was asked in the previous year question paper in 2020-2021 question paper as well. So the process was tedious because the root had to separate themselves from the floor. Leaves and small stems had to strain and had to just, exert pressure. So much of pressure. Even big branches struggled under the roof to move out, right? Roots tried to disengage themselves, taking advantage of the cracks that were there in the veranda. Now, why is the poet writing long letters? Why doesn't she mention trees' departure? Why is she writing long letters? Just to describe her daily life. And why she scarcely mentions, she does not mention the trees' departure because it is a symbolic event. It is a symbolic event because the trees are not actually moving. By her mentioning, we can clearly see this thing. The trees are not actually moving. This is all symbolic, right? So where are the trees and what are they trying to do? Where are the trees? The trees are confined into the forest. The trees are confined into some unnatural setting, in an artificial setting. And what are they trying to do? They are trying to move. They are trying to stumble forward. They are trying to move towards the forest. They are just craving for freedom. The trees is a symbolic poem. What do these trees symbolize? They symbolize human beings, especially women. Right? Now the next question, what is the smell of leaves and lichens compared to the leaves and the smell of leaves and lichens compare to voice, as the poet can experience the smell and hear the voice of birds and insect in the trees. As she says, the trees are stumbling forward towards the forest, and by next morning the forest would be full of trees. Now she could easily and just hear those voices. Like while sitting in a room, the poetic device used a simile, as we have already discussed while doing the stanza as well. Now the next question, why do you think the narrator does not mention the departure of the forest? So just she's being, she is busy in writing long letters mentioning her daily routine, daily life, and just because the moment is symbolic, so this cannot be mentioned in letters. Like this was not a physical moment that she was mentioning. She does not even mention the departure of the trees from the house and remains indifferent. Why she remains indifferent? She's a feminist and just writing about her daily life just because the moment was symbolic. The poet wants to show that people are so much engaged in their own activities that they remain indifferent to what happens in our surroundings, in the world of nature. It is as if the trees are growing in the veranda and moving out as if it is of no significance to the narrator. So at the same time, she feels as if we are not even noticing what harm we are causing to nature and what is happening around us in the nature, right? So it shows the insensitivity and indifference attitude of human beings at the same time. Now, why does the moon appears to be a broken mirror? I have already told you this thing, just because of now the trees have gone into the forest and the forest was full of trees, and just because of the longest branch of the trees which makes the mirror look like a broken mirror with different pieces, right? How does the whole moon break like a mirror? You can easily go through this answer to know. More appropriately, the narrator looks at the moon through the leaves of branches of the tree. Therefore, the whole of the moon is not visible. It is visible in different parts, which looks like a broken mirror. Now, the next question, what do trees symbolize? I have been telling you this thing time and again that this question is of utmost importance related to symbolism and metaphor. So, the trees in the poem are symbolic of women who wants to get free from the societal restrictions and want to emerge out independent, right? So they represent all the human beings who are denied all basic rights of development, particularly women who are enslaved, who are ill-treated, who are subjugated in a patriarchal or a male-dominated society. They will have to struggle to rebel against their slavery in order to get free, right? In order to get free from the confinement of the houses. What happens to the house when the trees have already moved? Right? This is also a very important question. Now, what is the condition of those houses from which trees have already moved into the forest? So, as the trees move out of the house, their impact is still felt. The veranda floor is left cracked and glass is shattered just because of a lot of pressure was exerted by different parts of the trees. However, the fragrance of the lichens and the leaves, the sounds of the birds and insects still linger in the mind of the poet, which she could easily hear, right? Now, the next question, how are the trees personified in the poem? That you can clearly see. We have given human attributes to the trees by telling that they are stumbling forward, right? They are craving for freedom, right? In the initial few lines only. So, they are projected as human beings. So, dear students, now we proceed towards one of the most important part of our class. That is long questions which have been designed exclusively for you all from previous year question papers, so that you can get an idea which type of questions can be asked in your question paper this time, and you may also know how to frame your answers in a wonderful manner. Let's get back to this question. What message does Adrienne Rich want to convey through this poem, The Trees? So the message that this poem and the writer conveys to all its readers is very unique, very simple and very clear at the same time. She has compared trees to human beings and specifically women who are longing for freedom, who wants to get free, who want to break all the shackles of societal restrictions. All right. So what she says, the poem The Trees by Adrienne Rich is a metaphor which compares the tree to human beings, specifically women, right, and highlights the desire for women to be free from the clutches of the society restrictions, right? So the trees want to free themselves from the floor of the house and want to move towards the forest. All the parts of the trees, right from the roots to the branch, struggle hard, strive hard to disengage themselves, to get free from the cracks, taking advantage of that, and wants to move freely towards the forest. So you have to read this question for your better understanding. The next question is extremely important and was asked in previous year as well. This question holds so much of importance. Either this can be, how can we just skip the word metaphor or symbolism in regard to this particular poem? So if you'll find any question in your upcoming board examination, please do not forget to mention the keywords like symbolism, symbol, metaphor, and how this poem and how the title, the trees which have been personified throughout the poem, have been compared to women, right? So do you think the poem The Trees is an allegory? Now we see a word allegory here. What does it mean? Until and unless you know a word, how are you going to write the question? So allegory is used when something is interpreted, when a text is being interpreted to reveal its hidden meaning, right? So, or you can be asked this question this way also, write the symbolic significance of the poem The Trees. So again, you have to mention the trees are symbolic of human beings, especially women who want to get free and emerge as an independent member of the society, right? Who want freedom in all walks of life, in all spheres of life, be it economic, political or social. All right, dear students. So let's get to know. The poem is certainly an allegory and has two layers of meaning. One is literal meaning and another one is symbolic meaning. All right, trees have been treated both literally and symbolically. In fact, being the great feminist writer, being the great feminist poet, she has mentioned the departure of the trees and have compared those trees to women specifically. And she says she has raised her voice against the exploitation of women in a male chauvinist, in a male dominated society. She has also highlighted her concerns regarding women and her exploitation in this male dominated, in this patriarchal society. Just like trees, as we as human beings are indifferent, are insensitive towards our natural surroundings, and we have been exploiting nature in numerous ways. Likewise, as trees have been symbolic of women, right? So who are subjugated, who are suppressed, who are dominated in a patriarchal setup, right? So now in the poem The Trees, which has been grown in the unnatural environment of a house, have started moving towards the forest. So these trees are symbolic of women, and the writer, the poet of the poem also hopes that by the next morning, as the forest will be full of trees and these trees are indicative of those women, like now who would be coming, who would be having a comeback with a different attitude, with a rebellious attitude, right? So further, the poem on the deeper level is a voice against all the exploitation and domination of women, right, by stronger ones. So I have already explained you the entire meaning on the whole, that it is written on two surfaces, one on a literal meaning and another one on a symbolic sense as well. So please go through each and every question that has been discussed in the class, so that you don't have to rush here and there, and you don't have to get panic, you don't have to get anxious at the time of your board exams. And trust me, if you go through each and every pointer, each and every theme, message, extract based question, short question and long question, you will not have to suffer at the time of your exams. All right, now we are going to start with the next unit, unit number 6. The chapter MIJBIL the Otter, written by Gavin Maxwell. So this particular chapter is a heartwarming story, is a humorous story about a pet otter and his master. It teaches us the value of friendship and that keeping a pet is a serious responsibility. All right, dear students. So let's dive deep. Let's understand the chapter in the form of pointers. First of all, just please be aware that this particular chapter is written by Gavin Maxwell, and he was a naturalist and an animal lover also, right? So the story narrates, the story tells us the experiences of an otter and his master as well, how the way he was brought from Tigris marshes and he was brought from Basra to England, right? So it blends humor, adventure and love for animals at the same time. Had the protagonist, had the character not been an animal lover, had Gavin Maxwell not been an animal lover, he would not have domesticated this pet otter, this antique, this unusual animal, water animal, right? So MIJBIL was a young wild otter, very small and fragile, very delicate. All right, dear students. So what we have understood so far, that the writer Gavin Maxwell was an animal lover, right? So what do we come to know so far after reading all these pointers? That Gavin Maxwell, the writer of the story, was a naturalist and an animal lover, right? He brought this otter, this unusual pet, to domesticate from Basra to England, right? So Gavin brought him from Basra, Iraq as a pet. Initial care was challenging for Gavin Maxwell, as the otter, this pet otter, could not adapt himself to the surroundings he was living in, but later became friendly towards his master, right? MIJBIL's personality, let's see the personality traits of MIJBIL the otter. So what's that? He was playful, he was curious, he explored his surroundings with the passage of time. He invented his own ways of playing games, right? Mischievous habits, hiding things, carrying objects in his mouth, and playful antiques. What is the meaning of this word antiques? Unusual, right? Something which is unusual. So learn to swim and adapt to domestic life gradually, right? Which is otherwise not so possible in the case of otters, as these are water mammals who love to live near water, right? Through these pointers, now I am going to explain you some more points as well. So please pay attention to all the details that are being discussed here in the class right now. So Gavin Maxwell, first of all, you need to remember that he had recently lost his pet dog, Zonnie. He had a pet dog that he lost, right? And the name was Zonnie. Now, after losing his pet dog, he got upset at the idea of keeping another pet as a dog. So this time he thought of experimenting with the otter to be kept as a pet. So what happened in the meantime, he decided to keep an otter as a pet, right? And he discusses this thing with his friend who suggested him to bring an otter from the Tigris marshes, right? Now, why his friend suggested him to bring an otter from Tigris marshes only? This is another question that can be asked, because otters are found abundantly there. Right? And they are domesticated by Arabs. So what happens after that? This writer Gavin Maxwell and his friend were on their way to England when they both were waiting for mail. So what happened after that? His friend's mail had already arrived, but he had to wait for another 5 days. Who had to wait? Gavin had to wait for 5 days. His mail had not arrived. When he got his mail, and when with his mail he just was about to leave for his room, and when he went to his room, hotel room, he found two Arabs sitting with an otter there, right? He found an otter in a sack with two Arabs. So this otter was sent to him. Behavior of the otter. And keeping this otter as a pet was very challenging for Gavin Maxwell in the beginning, that we would also be discussing. So initial behavior, he remained aloof. And also slept so this way you can say this happened for initial 24 hours. But after that, he developed a friendly attitude towards his master and also slept beside his knees and on his bed. Right? He started playing with him, and this master, Gavin Maxwell, took this otter to bathroom for the first time. right? And what was the thing that he learned from this incident? He learned that playing with water is a characteristic of otter. So this was the first time when he took this otter to the bathroom. He learnt one thing, that playing with water and splashing in water is a natural characteristic of an otter, right? Then after 2 days again he took him to the bathroom. After 2 days, what happened? What this Gavin Maxwell learned, he also learned that by this time, the otter has not only learned to play with water, but at the same time, he has also learned how to turn on the taps with its soft paws, right? How to? Right. So by the time when this otter started showing friendliness towards his master and he got familiar with the surroundings, he started adapting adapting he got adaptable to the surroundings that he was living in. Then he started his own way of playing and he invented some games on his own. Now comes one of the most important part of the story that is to be discussed. Now, after all these things, the writer Gavin Maxwell was planning to travel to England. Now the question comes, how this otter has to be taken in the flight, just because British Airlines had already denied. This created a problem. What was the chaos? Right? So he had to book another flight through other airlines, right? So what happened this time? He was being suggested by the airlines to keep an 18 by 18 inches box, and that he would have to keep the pet on his knees, right? So what he did right after that, he bought a box, right? And he put that otter inside the box and closed it so that he could become familiarized with the box, with his surroundings, like with that confined space, so that he may not create any problem in the flight. And he soon left for a meal. But on his way back home, he found that the otter had clearly destroyed the inner lining of the box, right? So as a result of which, it created a lot of chaos and there was hardly any time left for the flight, right? Then what happened? He was so anxious, he was so in problem that he discussed the entire thing with the air hostess, who suggested him to keep him on his knees, right? So he was just about to open the box when he found that the otter had already gone out of it and had created a very awful confusion in the entire flight, disturbing the other passengers as well, right? So although soon after some time, the otter came back to its own place and started pampering his master also. So by this time, what happened after that? He had developed an emotional bond with his master. They started living in England. They started living in London, right? Another thing that I would like to mention here. Now, by the time they developed a very deep bond, they've developed a very friendly attitude towards each other, especially this otter towards his master. So what used to happen when this master, Gavin Maxwell, used to take his pet otter, on walks generally in the streets of London, he used to enjoy a lot. Playful walks. catching attention of the people. All right. He would distract students as well as teachers also. By hopping over a large area. All right, dear students. And even one of the most amusing situations that the writer discusses. And one of the most amusing situations that the writer discusses here is that Londoners as some of them may call him as hippopotamus, or a walrus, or a leopard, or a squirrel. So this was funny incident. And even there was a person who was digging a hole on the ground, and just after stopping in the meantime, and when he asked about the animal, who this unusual animal is. So this is how the story comes to an end. So such a wonderful story with a blend of humor, adventure, and serious relationship between an otter and his master, right? So which also talks about responsibility at the same time. Now let's understand the theme. The account MIJBIL the Otter is based on the theme that keeping a pet is a very serious responsibility which should be handled with utmost care, right? A pet should be treated with affection, right? So Maxwell introduces the reader to the habit of just this quaint animal, quaint which means unusual, right? Its characteristic love for water, its playful nature, and love for toys. As we have clearly seen this while reading the text, that he had already developed a habit of playing in his own inventive ways of playing. He used to play with terrapin shells, he used to play with balls, marbles, right? So all these things. So he also informs that otters are intelligent enough to invent their own games, like he used to play with marbles, balls, and terrapin shells with these toys, right? So he used to invent his own game of his own, and are very affectionate. In this way, he elaborates the theme of caring about pets by sharing his own experiences, right? Please focus on these things. Now we come to the message which is extremely very important in terms of this lesson, as this was asked previously as well. So the chapter MIJBIL the Otter gives its reader a very clear idea, a very clear message that animals should be shown tender love and care because they respond in the same way. So the author wins over the confidence of MIJBIL, his own pet, by looking after him in a very affectionate, very loving manner, right? He ensures the otter's safety and provides him everything that was required of him, right? So then the otter responds to the kindness of his master by becoming familiar with him, by taking care of him in return as well. So he had developed a friendly attitude towards his master. He became familiar with his surroundings, otherwise which is not possible in the case of an otter, which is a water mammal, right? So which is very unusual, and nobody even thinks of keeping these otters as a pet otherwise. So gradually a strong bond of trust and love was built between the master and his pet otter. All right, dear students, now we come to the extract based questions. Let's have a look at these. So you got to know these lines, you got to see these lines which have been taken from the chapter. So there are higher chances that these type of questions may be asked from this particular lesson. So let's have a look. Which of the following is not a reason why MIJBIL came to Maxwell's bed? Which is not the reason. Focus on the word not. Right? He was interested in his surroundings. He was becoming friendly. He wanted to play on the bed. He wanted to feel safe. He wanted to play with Maxwell on his bed is the most appropriate answer. So the next question on screen, why was MIJBIL initially aloof and indifferent? So he needed some time to adapt to the surroundings he was living in, right? So that's why he remained aloof and insensitive in the beginning of the story. Next question, choose the correct description. Owning a pet is tedious. A pet needs time to adjust. Maxwell brought the otter because he missed his dog, and MIJBIL loved traveling. What is the most appropriate answer? That a pet needs some time to adjust, right? Now, which trait of otters is shown when MIJBIL went? When he comes to know that playing and splashing in water is a characteristic of otter. He got to know this thing. He showed his joy in water by splashing and playing. All right, dear students. Next question on screen. This excerpt has been given. When I casually mentioned this to a friend, he casually replied that I had better got one in the Tigris marshes. Right? What does it mean? What does one here refers to? It refers to otter. Right? So, where could the author get one? From the Tigris marshes? Why? Because they are found abundantly there and are domesticated by the Arabs. Why does the friend suggested getting out one from Tigris marshes? I hope this one is clear to all of you. Now, as we are proceeding towards these short answer type questions, so you should have a clear idea by this time. It's like which type of questions are being asked frequently and which type of questions can be asked in your upcoming examination at the same time. Let's discuss the very first one. What does MIJBIL's behavior suggest about otters' adaptability to urban surroundings? This question was asked in practice set 2. As I already told you, these questions have been gathered from question banks and previous year question paper sets as well. So let's have a look. MIJBIL's behavior shows that authors can adapt to new and unfamiliar surroundings as well if taken proper care and if treated with love, care and affection at the same time. Initially aloof and cautious, he could not adapt himself to the surroundings, but later got friendly with his master, later started getting adaptable, right? He learned to use the bathroom, play in water and interact safely with humans, showing that even wild animals can adjust in unfamiliar surroundings also, right? Now the next question on screen. So now the next question, please pay attention. MIJBIL went wild with joy in the water. What does this reveal about the nature of otters? We clearly come to know that playing in water, splashing in water, taking plunge is a characteristic of animals like otter who love to live in water. All right. So what is a part of their life? So they feel the happiest when they are around water. The next question, why did MIJBIL's attitude change from being aloof to being friendly? All thanks to time got changed. With the passage of time, he got changed, and initially he was aloof and indifferent towards his master even, but later developed a deep connection and became friendly towards his master. Now long questions, very important part of the class. Let's have a look at this now. What things does Mij do which tell you that he is an intelligent, friendly and a fun-loving animal who needs love? So there is no doubt in calling MIJBIL or Mij a fun-loving animal, right? First of all, you need to, while this sort of question is being asked in your exam, please do not forget to mention the characteristic of an otter, right? So there is no doubt that Mij is an intelligent, friendly and fun-loving animal who is also affectionate. His intelligence is proved from the fact that he does not surrender himself, right, to the author till he finds him trustworthy. He stays aloof and away from him as far as he could in the beginning of the story, but with the passage of time, he had developed a connection with his master. He had developed the bond, and then he got friendly with him and he started getting comfortable with him. He started feeling safe and comfortable with his master. So his fun-loving nature is revealed when he splashes water by taking plunge, by turning on and turning off the taps with his own soft paws, and the way he used to play with water, right? So it becomes all clear that he was a fun-loving and a water mammal, right? So this aspect of his nature becomes clearer when he ambushes the sliding ping pong balls and hides from it to take it from surprise. So he used to play with these toys like ping pong balls, terrapin shells and marbles as well. All right, so you have to mention each and every part of his characteristics, right? Now, one of the most important questions, and that has already been asked in CBSE 2022, that MIJBIL and the tiger both were looked after by humans. Suppose they meet in a zoo, what is the conversation that would happen between these two? So dear students, as this is an open-ended question which can have multiple interpretations, right? So what do you think the conversation that would have taken place between these two animals in a zoo, right? So this question can have multiple interpretations based on your thinking and analysis, right? So otter and we have tiger. The tiger may have also discussed some positive pointers related to human beings, how they are being treated by humans, right? So as tiger, if it is confined in a zoo, would be of complaining nature and would make a complaint to the author that we have been exploited, we have been pelted stones at by human beings, and how do they treat us, like so. And otters on the other hand can discuss this thing with the tiger about his master, that who loves him, who treats him with affection, love, care, and affection, isn't it? So both of these animals would have their own ways of explaining and having conversation with each other, right? So please practice your answer. Try to frame your own answer related to this one. This will definitely enhance your thinking. All right. Now we are going to discuss the last poem of the class and the unit as well. The poem which is titled as Fog, written by Carl August Sandburg. Let me tell you a very interesting fact about the poem, that it is just written in 2 sentences but leaves its readers with a very deeper meaning. It talks about a very natural phenomenon. It talks about the appearance and disappearance of fog over harbour and the city as well. So, right, let's read it. The fog comes on a little cat feet. It sits looking over harbour and city on silent haunches and then moves on. Right, such a wonderful and a very short poem, right, which is written in free verse because it is not possible to predict the rhyme scheme being too short, right. So, what do we first of all come to know? Here, the fog has been compared to cat. It acts as a metaphor also. There is a metaphor. Right? The movement of the fog has been compared to the movement of the cat, and fog has also been compared to a cat who comes very stealthily, right, from one place to another, stays there for some time and then moves to some other place without interrupting anyone, right? So, the fog comes on little cat feet. The poet says the fog comes on a little cat's feet. It comes very stealthily, it comes very silently, without warning others, without even giving any notification to others, right, over the harbour and the city, very stealthily, very slowly, and stays there for some time and then leaves also this in the same manner, just like a cat moves from one place to another without interrupting anyone. It sits looking over harbour and city. So we come to know about 3 different stages of fog in this particular poem. This first stage being the arrival of fog, the second stage discusses about the staying of the fog over the harbour and the city, and the third stage talks about the disappearance of the fog in a very stealthy manner, right? So, the literary device that we discuss here, the rhyme scheme, the poem is written in free verse. Got it? Metaphor, fog, which has been compared to cat, right? And the movement also has been compared to a cat's feet, right? Analogy, again the same. The movement of the fog has been compared to the movement of the cat, which is very silent, right, to cat's movement. Then we have personification. Fog has been personified as it has been clearly mentioned that it comes like on cat's feet, right? So we have given human attributes to fog here. So under transferred epithet, it is a literary device in which an adjective is placed before a noun which it does not qualify. So here it has been used silent haunches, right? It is used. So it is not the haunches of the cat which are silent. Rather, silent is an adjective which has been used for fog, right? So silent used for fog, not for haunches, right? So please be aware that if you use this literary device, and what is the meaning? Transferred epithet is a literary device in which we place an adjective before a noun which it does not qualify because it is used to qualify some other noun in the sentence. All right, dear students. Now, let's understand the theme, which is very, very important to understand. The poem highlights the quite mysterious and gentle nature of fog, how it comes over the harbour and the city, just like a cat who comes and stays at some place and then moves to some other place, right, without making any noise, without interrupting anyone. By comparing fog to a cat, the poet shows how it enters, stays and leaves. So there are 3 different stages. 3 different stages of fog. Which are those? the moment it appears, the moment it stays, and the moment it disappears over harbor and the city. All right. Now, let's get through these extract-based questions which are really, really important. Now, it sits looking over harbor and city on silent haunches and then moves on. What does the it refers to? What does it refers to here? It refers to fog. Where does it settled over? Over the harbor and the city. Then we have what does it do sitting on its haunches? Right? Haunches refers to the backside of an animal, right, on which it rests, just like the cat as we are talking about in this poem. Looks over the harbor and city. Name the figure of speech that has been used. Personification, as fog has been personified. All right, dear students. Now, let's get back to the short questions of the chapter. So, dear students, how does the fog come? It comes very stealthily, very silently, very swiftly, just like the movement of a cat. It appears, it stays at some place for some time and then vanishes without interrupting, without warning anybody. Right? Now, does the poet actually say that fog is like a cat? Find 3 hints that tell us that the fog is like a cat. No, the poet does not directly say that the fog is like a cat. He compares the two in a metaphorical manner, not directly, just in a very metaphorical manner, but not in a literal sense. The fog and the cat are similar to their movements and behavior, right? The fog has not been compared directly to the cat, right? First of all, you need to understand that fog has been personified because we have given human attributes to something which is inanimate, right? So, and then these two, this comparison has been made indirectly, right? In a metaphorical manner, how the movements have been compared. Right? The fog descends on the city suddenly, stealthily and silently, just like a cat arrives at some place. It stays there for some time and then moves away to the next destination. Right? Now, long question, which is the last part of the class. Dear students, please pay utmost attention to all the details that would be discussed now in this particular question. Examining the role of nature in the poem, The Dust of Snow and Fog. In Dust of Snow, nature acts as a healer and mood changer. So, as both the poems are related to nature, let's have a quick look. So, talking about a simple natural incident in which a crow shook the leaves of a hemlock tree and which brought a change in the mind of the poet, which brought a change in the mood of the poet, right, on a positive note. So, changes the poet's sad and depressed mood. The falling snow lifts its spirit and saves the rest of his day from being wasted in regret, right? Just because he was already sad and in a dejected mood, but the slight incident, but the slight movement that happened, that took place, a crow shaking the hemlock tree, as a result of which snowflakes fell onto his head and there was a complete change in his mood. So, like that in fog, nature is presented as mysterious, calm and graceful. Right? So, the fog is compared to the cat which enters the city, stays there for some time and then disappears. Right? So, instead it works smoothly and silently. The poem highlights quiet power and independent force of nature, independence of nature at the same time. Thus, in both poems, nature plays a very significant role. The Dust of Snow, it brings emotional healing as well, and in fog, it reflects mystery and silent strength. So, in Dust of Snow, it brings healing and hope as well, whereas in the poem Fog, it talks about strength and mystery at the same time. All right, dear students, now we come towards the recapitulation part of the class, which is extremely essential, right, for all of us to understand. So, let's know that. Before that, so let's see another question on screen. What 3 stages of fog does the poem Fog presents? We have already discussed these 3 stages. First stages being talking about the arrival of fog, right? So, Carl Sandburg's exceptionally small poem Fog presents few words or 3 stages of fog. First, it descends over the city and the harbor, right? The second stage being staying over the city and the harbor, and the third one while it disappears. All right, dear students. So, please have a quick look at these answers. Right? And please, the class notes would be made available to you. The whole PDF will be available to you. Please do not forget to tap the link that is given in the description box to get access to all the study material and important questions for your upcoming board examination. All right. So, please do not forget. So, now let's have a brief recap of the chapters that we have covered so far in the class, dear students. So, please pay attention. Unit 5 and 6. Right? We have discussed glimpses of India. A baker from Goa, which talks about people, profession, right? Specifically bakers. Then we talk about Coorg, which is famous for marshalmen. Coffee and spices, right? Then we talk about tea from Assam, which is famous for tea and lush green gardens as well. All right, dear students, then we also discussed the poem The Trees by Adrienne Rich, which is based on nature. Based on the idea of freedom, right, in which we have compared trees to women, right? Then talking about Unit 6, we have the lesson MIJBIL the Otter. A humorous story, humorous and heartwarming story. All right, talks about the relationship otter and his master. It teaches us the value of friendship and that keeping a pet is a serious responsibility. Talking about the poem Fog, poem which is based on nature, and it talks about 3 stages. First, the appearance of fog, staying of fog over the harbor of the city, and then it gets disappeared. So dear students, I hope you won't face any problem at the time of your exams after watching this video completely, because this covers each and every minute detail about all the lessons that have been covered so far, the lessons that are there in Unit 5 and Unit 6. So dear students, please watch this video to get wonderful results related to this particular unit in your examination. So for upcoming units, please stay tuned with us. Till then, have a wonderful evening ahead. Thank you so much.